All right, episode of the Diego and DeVore show. I am your co-host Diego. His lordship again on vacation. I can't get that guy to stand still every time he's out doing something. So tonight, pulling double duty. Not only does he do a show himself from corner to corner, live 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on Spreaker. Stan Grubb, owner of New Attitude Media as well. How you doing, brother? I ain't talked to you for so long.
Man, it is a wintry type of weekend, the Royal Rumble weekend, my favorite event of the year. Happy to join you. We got a great interview coming up here with a talent that, as I understand it, is young and hungry. So that's going to be a great opportunity for us.
And you know that's what our shows are about. Yeah, we can cover a lot of things, and you cover a lot of those big pay-per-views. You talk about AEW, WWE, and Ring of Honor, but there's times to where we go back a little bit. We want to see what's coming, the future of wrestling. It's always in the indies, man. Because I know now this is all canned talent, homegrown, but I don't think you get the same flavor and experience as a person who's out there busting their ass in the indies.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's a lot of people that are coming up right now that have so much to offer. And one of the things I've noticed is that AEW has done a tremendous job bringing people in from surrounding areas. And of course, with COVID, it makes it difficult, but he's still finding a way. And we're seeing a lot of new faces. I mean, Ryzen is out of North Carolina, and he was working with Matt Hardy not too long ago, but now he's on AEW Dark pretty well every week. Who is this other guy? I just saw him. He looks almost like Hercules. Nick Comatorio, I think is his last name. I may have totally botched that. But
I've seen him. He's a very impressive looking guy.
He's huge. Apparently he's affiliated with the Nightmare family. But his ability in the ring is just insane. So we've really seen a lot of positive things from that. Impact continues to do well, but I think you're right. I think they do a lot of canned kind of, this is a guy we know, so we're going to bring him in versus... And then there's, of course, NXT will, if you're not in OVW might be that place, where they might look to, since Evolve is now under their banner. I would say that there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of guys and gals, that are just waiting, right, itching for that right opportunity.
Right, because we all know we're all fans of wrestling, but we're more than fans. Yes. So a fly-by-night fan who doesn't know OVW needs to know OVW because what you're seeing now, you damn well know it's going to come from OVW soon. Yeah. That was one of the things I did. Actually, when I was active, I went in Kentucky and I was passing by and I had the honor of doing a couple of matches for OVW back 2008, 2009 with my buddy Damos. And that was a good time. And I think I forgot the name of the referee that was in there, but he was my in there, and I really appreciate. I feel terrible that I don't remember his name, but let's move on to this. So tonight we have a guest that I tell you, I watched him, was highly entertained, great ring work, but he had just now, recently I started watching OVW again because it's on YouTube now, and the production value is superb. And I don't know if you caught much of that, Stan, but you're going to see a lot of good guys there coming up soon.
Well, and OVW historically has always had some tremendous talents. If you really want to go back into the annals of history, there's guys like Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin that came through OVW and had a tremendous run there. So we know for a fact that the heritage, the history of that company is huge. A lot of ownership changes, as I understand it, but we've got an opportunity to really see, like you said, some hot prospects.
And the spirit of OVW is still alive. So talking about the spirit, let's talk about a man.
The spirit. I see what you did there.
Yeah, thank you, man. So they say he's working holds and saving souls. The Triple R superstar, Reverend Ronnie Roberts. Reverend, thank you for coming on the Diego and DeVore show.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. And that's it, working holds and saving souls, baby. That's what I do.
Yeah, man. I've been catching a lot of your work on, because I stay up late at night, and I'm thinking, so once COVID breaks and we start doing the shows again, and I'm looking at talent, I like watching a lot of the old stuff. I like to see who's out there right now that's really catching my eye. You caught my eye because I saw they're giving you segments now where you're interviewing the other wrestlers, and that's highly entertaining.
Oh man, I'm at home with that microphone in my hand. I mean, as hopefully some young wrestlers will listen to this at some point. I spent almost a decade trying to hone my craft and become the best wrestler in the ring. And then eventually I realized that, well, I'll get more ring time and TV time and everything if I can just be a guy who can, as we call him, a stick man or whatever. So why not do that? And lo and behold, my career had another resurgence, and I'm more known for my promos and my wrestling work these days.
Oh, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, it's one of those things that you can be a great wrestler, but sometimes it doesn't translate with the fans if you can't go out there and cut a promo and be entertaining on that mic. You know, you fall kind of flat. You don't, you know, not taking anything away from guys like a Dean Malenko, but great wrestler. But, you know, every once in a while you catch him, does a decent promo, but, you know, people want that extra it factor.
Exactly. And love Dean Malenko. That's like the classic guys who can really wrestle were always my favorites coming up, but you know, he just didn't have that certain thing to grab the casual wrestling fan. I mean, wrestling has a base of fans that really love wrestling, but if you want to really get to the top, if you want to be that Hogan level, if you want to be that Flair Macho level, you have to have something extra to grab someone who's not a wrestling fan and make them pay attention to you. And that's what Dean Malenko kind of was lacking, even though he was great. I don't know who you can name who was better than him inside that squared circle.
Not many. Not at his level.
Right, exactly. He was so good. So good.
So speaking of that, because I know we talked about you're currently in OVW, we're going to get into the history of your career because you say you've been doing it for around 10 years. So let's just move fast forward. How did you wind up in OVW? Because there's a lot of spots there, a lot of coveted spots that people want to be there at OVW.
Yeah, OVW has become a hot commodity again these days. I've kind of felt like on the outside looking in, OVW kind of had a stigma over the last few years, like it's kind of it fell off, you know. And I don't want to step on any toes guys who were still there who were there, but that's what the viewpoint was from everyone outside of OVW. It's like, oh man, OVW used to be this, and now it's just whatever. So I am the head trainer at Grindhouse Professional Wrestling out of Jeffersonville, Indiana. I teach young kids how to wrestle, and just so happened because of the pandemic, the state of Kentucky shut everything down, but Indiana was still kind of halfway open. They were one of those states where you could have 50% of the crowd, 75% of the crowd, or whatever, or capacity. And so OVW came to the place where I trained, because I trained inside the arena. It's called the Grindhouse Arena in Jeffersonville, and they hold wrestling events there. And so since they couldn't run in Kentucky, they came right across the river and ran about, I think, a month's worth of TV out of the arena. So obviously, Too Tough Tony is the owner of Grindhouse. If you all know who Too Tough Tony is, you know, of JCW fame. He's been all around the world. So Al Snow cut a deal with Too Tough Tony, and OVW became the run there. And to be completely honest, I had no want, I didn't want to go wrestle for OVW. I was like, well, it's OVW. Wow. It was not my first time there, by the way. Well, I'd done a few earlier stints earlier in my career, and I just wasn't, I didn't care to go for it. Tony actually talked me into it because part of the deal was they were going to use some of our young guys on the show, was part of they're coming into the building. So Tony convinced me, oh man, that you'll make the young ones feel more comfortable if you're there, whatever. So fine. I eventually relented, and I decided to go to the shows there. And I guess it's just one of those things where, okay, well, if we're going to use these kids, we should probably see what the person who's teaching them looks like. And so they asked me to work a match. I did. They put me in there with one of their younger, he was a younger, greener guys. And I just went and did my thing, and apparently I was impressive. Al liked what I did, and so the week after that, threw me in the ring with, at the time, OVW champion Tony Gunn. Let me cut a promo and everything. Second week there, I'm like, man, okay, that's all right. And so I'm now at the point in my career where I've kind of turned into a locker room leader and almost a veteran guy, and I saw a lot of potential there, but at the same time, they needed some guidance. And so, it kind of hooked me in. And after that month run, it was over. They wanted me to keep coming, which is right across the bridge in Louisville. And at the time, I was living in Clarksville, Indiana. So there it was. I went. I got over after 2 weeks, and they kept booking me. That's essentially how it worked.
Well, you definitely caught their eye because every program, not every, but most recent ones, you're definitely making a statement on those shows. It's very impressive, by the way. Because I don't know. Let me ask you, Stan, because I'd say you know more about wrestling than I do because you're more of a journalist than I am. In that aspect. So what's the vibe out there now? Because, and I don't like using the term indie wrestling. I mean, if you're a professional wrestler, they're paying you to do something, you're a professional. So what's the vibe out there now because indie wrestling, it seems like it was a full head of steam. And unfortunately, COVID has kind of really killed everything. So what's the word on the street as far as the casual wrestling fan with the indies coming up?
The thing we hear the most about with especially companies like OVW and I said Evolve earlier, these are the companies that are kind of at that crux, right? They're televised on occasion. They've got some television that's out there through Amazon, through YouTube, all these different outlets. And now you've got a guy as connected as Al Snow, he's always had an affiliation, but now it's more of a stronger hold. And, Mr. Roberts was just talking about how it did seem at one point that OVW had kind of fallen off. And a lot of that happens with a lack of attention. And that's not a fault issue. It's not like this guy really screwed up or dropped the ball. It's an attention issue. Today's fan is a short attention span, right? You've got 5 minutes. You've got 6 minutes on TV. If that match doesn't pull them in the first two, sorry, you missed your spot. Now, with independent wrestling, I think what we typically call it on Sundays is territorial. When you're looking at what you're doing wherever you're at, it's about the presentation. One of the things that you and Mr. DeVore, his lordship, have taught me in regards to delivery of a product has also been about making sure the presentation is proper. And that's one thing I noticed about OVW that has consistently been a strong presentation. Reverend Roberts, you were just saying that you didn't want to go to OVW at first. You really weren't sure. Was that because of a concern as to the focus, as to how they would focus on you, or just the presentation overall?
No, it was just not so much about me. It was almost like I was so focused on getting my kids work.
Okay.
I wasn't so worried about me. It was at that point I was actually thinking about taking even more of a back seat and focus more on trainer Ronnie Roberts as opposed to performer Ronnie Roberts. And like I said, I just went out and did my thing. I didn't feel like I did anything special, but it worked. I guess I not to pat myself on the back, but I can work. I know how to go out there and wrestle a match. I know how to, I know what it takes, and I can for doggone sure cut a promo. So those two combined, that's a pretty good combination. You all are in the wrestling business, if you can work in the ring, you can cut a promo. We might have something there. And I was just focused on the kids as opposed to me. And like I said, I had been to OVW before, and I just wasn't as far as OVW as compared to other the quote unquote indie scene, I guess. You have a little more freedom. Because obviously OVW is a television product, so it's a little more structured. And I'm the type of guy sometimes that, I'm not going to lie, on the indie scene, I'm like, oh, you got 7 minutes. And I'll go out there and I'll go 8. But that extra minute was really good, so they thought most people wouldn't say anything to me. Whereas OVW, I would, I'm in more of a box. And actually, to be honest with you, I guess they enjoy it because sometimes they'll still give me that extra minute too, is what I've learned. So I just didn't think I'd be able to have the freedom I had at OVW, but it turns out I was wrong because they let me do what I do.
Well, and with your freedom that you're talking about and transformation, I mean, OVW's seen some rebranding quite a bit, and you're no stranger to that as well. You started off in a totally different light than where you're at right now. You were ravishing, and now you are the Reverend. What puts you from ravishing to Reverend? How did you get there?
Man, that man was a sinner if I've ever seen one. I tell you what. No. That ravishing Ronnie Roberts had all the ladies screaming every time he came out. They were putting money in his singlet first, then trunks.
Oh no.
That, I was essentially, as I even, it's funny, sitting right beside me, I have my only wrestling figure. I don't know if you can see this. This is Ravishing Rick Rude. One of my favorites coming up. And so that's just, You know what? I'll go back and tell you a story. I was trained by two guys. One you'll know, one you probably won't. The guy I signed the contract with name was Johnny Bad, a wrestler promoter in Kentucky at the time. But the in-ring guy who trained me is legendary Larry D of Impact Wrestling, right now. So one day we're going somewhere with Johnny, my buddy and I, who started with me. He didn't finish, but he started with me, and he's like, all right. And Johnny's like, I already got you all. I know exactly what we're going to call you all. He called my buddy something. I can't remember what it was. And he said, we're going to call you the Triple R Superstar, Rowdy something Reinhardt or something. And he said, I've never heard of Double R Superstar, which I found out later who that was. And I never heard of Triple R Superstar. So we're going to give you that. And I sat there for a second, and it's one of those things where you're thinking, it's like, okay, I know I'm not supposed to say anything, but I don't know no black dude named Reinhardt for one. And Rowdy that's just not me. I knew who I was anyway at that point. I knew I wasn't Rowdy. So I tend to be kind of like, can I make a suggestion? What if I go with Ravishing? Because, I thought I was a pretty boy anyway back then. And obviously, Ravishing Rick Rude, the original Triple R Superstar, was one of my favorites. And I was like, Reinhardt's like, I don't know any melanated Reinhardts, but I know a bunch of Black Roberts. So, what if we go? And the Ronnie part kind of stems from my name is Renoni, and my government name, and a friend of mine would always mess with me and call me Ron or Ronnie or something like that, just because she knew it got under my skin. And so I just put together, they got the Ravishing, we got the Ronnie, we got the Roberts, there's the Triple R Superstar. But I ended up changing it up because I became pretty good at what I did in the ring. And so good that I could also make anybody else look really good. And so I made a name around Kentucky, traveling around the whole state, all around, and making decent money for a time, going around and making everybody else look good. But as you all know, after a while, when you spend too much time making everybody else look good and you don't spend enough time making yourself look good, it's going to decrease your value. It's a lesson I had to learn in the wrestling business. So I went around, making every Joe Smo wrestler look like $1 million. But after a while, when you come to see me 3 times, and on that 4th time, you already know what's going to happen. So why would you come to say and see me again? Mm-hmm. If that makes sense business-wise. So I had diminished Ravishing Ronnie Roberts' value so much that I needed to do something different. And I have been Reverend Ronnie Roberts for a long time, just never out in public for everyone to see. It's always something that I would do and bust out, and because in my 20s I was studying to become a preacher. So I know this is not a joke. I know the word. I know all that. So I had to switch it up and do something different. And as far as the business aspect, I could have came up with anything, something bland. But I also knew that as you were kind of mentioning beforehand, that religion is a bit of a hot button sometimes, right?
Yes.
And I figured if I can push it just the right way, it would work out for me. And I think I did. And I think I've been hitting a bit of a home run since I started. I don't know, am I in year 3 or 4? I can't remember even when I started doing it now. But, I tried to push that envelope and see as far as I can go with it. And here I am today.
Now, do you think that works well because of the area of the country you're at? It seemed to be probably more receiving or something like that.
Well, I think it's the opposite. I think I got more backlash because of where I am. Because I would go up to Detroit or something, and it wasn't as big a deal. Mm-hmm. I would have to work harder to get that heat. Whereas, from Kentucky down, oh man, it's and the part of the reason why I was able to get away with it is because I can be entertaining. And so, it kind of makes it okay when you can make people feel entertained, I guess, as opposed to just the hardcore, I want to hate you and slash your tires kind of thing. There's some of that too now, don't get me wrong. But I think because I can be entertaining, not even on purpose, it just happens that way, that I was able to get away with it a little more, even in the southern states. But up north, in the northern states, it's not even a big deal. They call it a Bible Belt for a reason.
Right.
And my changeover, it definitely displayed that for me. That's for sure.
I mean, like I said, it's definitely very entertaining because it's one of those things that I'm watching the shows and for some reason it kind of stuck with me because I mean I kind of dig that kind of gimmick anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's done well and it's not meant to be derogatory in any way towards anybody that follows a certain path of religion.
Yes.
So, but let me ask you, because you were talking earlier at OVW that you're looked at as a locker room leader, your skills. I mean, these 10 years, you're on point now, but we're still learning.
Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of feedback have you received from your earlier trainers? Have they given you a call and say, "Hey, man, I've been watching you, but you're still making this mistake," or you got tighten up here or there? You getting any feedback from them?
Well, I don't know if anybody views me as a locker room leader. I kind of view myself as a locker room leader, and hell, some of those young guys at OVW probably hate me because I'll yell at them every now and then. But
that's okay.
Yeah, but it's not for no reason. It's not my ego. My ego is not in it at all. It's simply I want the wrestling business to look great, and we're on TV, and my goal is to put OVW on my back and take it to the next level. I'm not content with OVW to being on the TV stations that it's on and YouTube, and I know it's on Amazon Prime and all that. I want to bring it up another notch, and I feel like I can help. And some other guys there, we can put it on our backs and we can take it to the next level. But like I said, legendary Larry D is one of my best friends, so I speak to him often. If I ask him for something, he'll give it to me. But I don't get a whole lot of feedback from him. And Johnny Bad, I'll see him every now and then, but I'm not even sure if he watches me, to be completely honest. And what I've found actually, and one thing that Al Snow gives me that I really appreciate you all been in locker rooms, especially you, Diego. When you are at a certain level on the card, it's hard to get an honest critique.
Yes.
Because people are just gonna, oh brother, it was good. Oh brother, and I used to come back even as a young guy. I was pretty good, so I ended up higher up on the card, even as a young guy. And so for years, I've been searching for an honest critique. And I will take that back. Ian Rotten will give you an honest critique as well. I'll work some IWA. And of course, if I ask Larry will give me an honest critique. And there's some guys here and there, but for the most part, no, I don't ask very much these days for his critique. And so if somebody gives me one, like if Al comes and tells me something, I'm very appreciative of it. But for the most part, no, people don't really, they don't critique me very often. It's not I guess it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because sometimes I feel like, man, I just want an honest answer. What did this look like? And to be honest with you, most of the time at OVW, it has nothing to do with whatever I do in the ring. It's more, did I hit this camera angle? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
That's what I want to know these days because I got a pretty good idea what it looked like and what it felt like when I'm out there. But the whole TV thing is somewhat new to me. So I want to know, I want you to critique me from that standpoint. Did that answer your question? I started rambling. I apologize if I didn't answer your question.
No, this is why we ask because we want to know, where you're coming from on that. And so you hit on something. And I think Stan can agree with me on this. Hopefully he does. We don't agree very often sometimes. So you were talking about critique. And fortunately and unfortunately, I spend an awful lot of time on social media. You got to do your homework, who's out there, what's going on. I see a lot of the fans or friends of the wrestler saying, that was an incredible match, this, and that. And I'm thinking, are you watching the same match I'm watching?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm seeing, there's like 10 feet of air there. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing use the word botchmania, but they're saying you're so good. I think it kind of hurts somebody saying, hey, you know what? It wasn't so good. I'm not trying to be rude about this, but let's break it down. So hopefully you won't make the same mistakes over and over again.
Right. And I guess, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you. What I was saying is that there does seem to be some trepidation about providing, you were just saying getting honest feedback, but there's also trepidation to the point of providing it. Because there are some that will do the boo-boo face. like you just peed my Wheaties kind of thing. Because honestly, there's guys that are very, very good, and you wanna lift them up, but help mold. And there's times where they'll ask, "Hey, what did you think about?" And they'll ask about a specific spot. It's almost like they're gonna say, "Okay, well, the first 5 minutes it was but what did you think about this?" It's like, well, wait a second, let's talk about what happened here, because to get to there, and I'm still extremely new, so I sometimes from my perspective, get uncomfortable if somebody asks me for feedback. Like one of the guys we work with an awful lot is Ethan Cross. He's a tremendous guy, but he will ask me. And I'll just be like, wow, so I want to say this nicely. And I always tell him, I'm like, look, man, I may be the wrong person to ask, but here's what I think. That way, if it comes off kind of asinine, because I don't mean it to, but I'm a pretty unfiltered dude, I'll just say, hey, maybe here, try this. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it might look different for you. And then I've had other conversations with other guys who I won't name drop that have been like, who are you? And that just completely defeats the purpose. Why did you ask my opinion if you're going to say, who are you?
Yep, exactly. You're absolutely right. And that's, I too can be a bit abrasive sometimes. There's different words that we call that, but I choose not to use such language most of the time.
Well, a good reverend could not.
Exactly. Now that Ravishing guy, he would have told you. I'll tell you that. Here's my technique when it comes to that these days. If I have something to say, I'll be like, hey brother, hey, you mind if I'll ask them if I can. You mind? I saw something, and some guys don't want to know. But if they do, then I will break it down to them. But the key is you just have to talk to them. You can't be like, oh man, that just sucked. Well, there has to be there has to be a why. Yeah. There has to be a why, and something you could do differently to slide in there. Because once they can kind of mentally see what you're saying and make it make sense, then they can accept it. But if you just like, oh man, that sucked, I would have did that. Then it's like, well, okay, well, who are you then?
Right.
But for the guys who come and ask and then want to say, who are you? I don't know. That's at some point you have to take your ego aside and you ask. You're just looking for that pat on the back at that point. You just want somebody to say, "Oh, brother, that was great." Oh, and what? I don't know what good that's done anybody. I don't know. We have to understand what we're out here in the mission to do, and we're trying to get better, not for the pat on the back. We're trying to get better for business purposes. And remember, this is wrestling business. And I think that's the guys who get offended. I think they have a misconception about what the business is. That's how I look at it anyway. So I try, like I said, these days I've been around for a while. I got a pretty good eye. Like I said, I teach young wrestlers. So I got a pretty good eye and idea how to speak to people. That's my strength. I can speak anyone's language, except for unless they don't speak English. But I don't understand I think we have to take our ego, and it's hard because it's kind of an egotistical business, but sometimes we got to put our ego aside in order to get better.
It's just good business. You got to put your ego aside,
You got to. Sometimes you got to. I mean, I guess I'll talk about it. There was a thing on OVW TV where I pied the champion Tony Gunn in the face after a Thanksgiving show. This was past Thanksgiving, and he's coming back through the curtain. I threw a pie in his face.
Oh,
and so the next week I come out. There's supposed to be a match. I come out first or whatever, and he, gloms me in the back or whatever, beats me up or whatever. And so afterwards, I'm talking to one of the young guys, and he's like, "Oh man, it sucks that they beat you up like that, man, and whatever. I can't believe they would do that to you." And I'm just looking at him, and I was like, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. So, I did something, and the pie wasn't necessarily part of the plan, by the way. It was just something that got caught on camera, but it so happens that they used it. I'm kind of a ripper. So I ended up working myself into a spot with the champion on TV, but yet somehow this guy sees it as a negative. I don't know. Like I said, that people don't think the way they need to think in order to be successful in this business. I mean, I wasn't even probably supposed to be on that particular show. Then I end up in the show with a segment with the champion. I think I won. I think I won on that one. That was a win for me. It wasn't a negative, but these young guys view it as a negative these days because I got beat up or whatever. And now, if you look now, months later, here I am with my segment on the TV show. OVW has 2 TV shows. They have Overdrive and OVW TV, which is live, and you can see me on both of them most of the time. So I think I won on that one, and we have to figure out what's important and what's not important here.
You made a good observation there. You talk about kind of like a light bulb moment. A guy doesn't get it. Mm. For you, being in the industry as long as you have, what was your light bulb moment?
I think there were probably a bunch of light bulb moments. I spent the early part of my career probably too invested in some of the women that were running around. So eventually I had to learn, oh, well, you know what, if I stop messing with the women, I could probably, stop having some of my runs cut short and things of that nature. I had too much going on backstage. And then, at some point you have to learn. I'll take it back. My first time at OVW, or I won't take it. We'll go there. I kind of left because I had the attitude like, man, I'm better than some of these guys here. What I didn't understand. I just had to be patient and sow that seed, and then it will sprout. And I would get, my time was coming. It was there, but you don't just all of a sudden, hey, this guy's better, we put him in this spot. That's not how it works. We build everything. And I guess that was a good moment for me. Eventually, I had to learn. I don't know if I can give you a specific light bulb moment. I don't know. I guess I'll tell you another story. When the first time I met Ian Rotten was very early in my career, and he saw me somewhere in Indiana, I think, and he wanted to bring me in. And me being me, from what I had been taught, and even being a 2 or 3 years in at that point, I was good enough to where I was charging a rate to go, and people were paying me. So he wants to book me, and I'm like, oh, hey, all right, well, listen, I know this is a good promotion. I'm only going to charge you this. I'm trying to cut him a deal. and however, with that, it soiled the relationship because he's like, well, who is this guy going to try to? He's like, I don't have a guarantee for anyone. And this guy's going to try to, so it cost me a run at the time, which may have helped me grow a little faster wrestling some of those guys who were at IWA. But so I didn't end up working for him for another 8 years or so. Just like the last couple of years, I finally worked for Ian Rotten after a while. So it's just moments like that you have to learn. And usually it ends up being like a negative that happens to you, and then you have to get, once you get hit on the head and bump your head enough, you realize, oh, well, I got to do things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good business what you're talking about, because you're also talking about long-term thinking.
Yes.
With that, and I know you've had a long career, and this is the shameless plug moment I'm going to bring up. So, and I know in wrestling, you need a lot of energy to go to places where you need to go. You could be in Kentucky one time, you could be in Indiana, you could be in Ohio, you could be in Vermont. But in my days, we didn't have things to give us much energy. Yeah, we had energy in a can, or we had Cappuccino from Sheetz or Wawa. They're not one of our sponsors, but sometimes you need something that won't give you that crash. Rogue Energy is that supplement you can take, a supplement that was designed for the use for gamers, and people like to play their video graphic games all night long, but they drink in those cans of stuff, and it's got chemicals that nobody even knows how to pronounce. Rogue Energy does not have that problem. If you go to rogueenergy.com, use the promo code Diego and DeVore Show and get 10% off your total order. That's Diego, the Shift 7 key, not and, Shift 7 key, Diego and DeVore Show. Get 10% your total order from rogueenergy.com. His lordship, this is how he vacations so much, has the energy, because he drinks Rogue Energy. He loves it. He loves that peach drink. I like the fruit punch. Do yourself a favor. Energy without the crash, rogueenergy.com. Promo code Diego and DeVore Show. Get 10% off your total order today. Back with Reverend Ronnie Roberts. So we talked about OVW and the other places and how you started. So where are you what plans do you have now? Because there's so many companies out there now, and I know COVID has put the kibosh on a lot of things, but because they got Ring of Honor, you have NWA Power, you have AEW, which is the next greatest thing right now. People are trying to get into, and then of course you have the overseas gigs. So out of all these things that are out there, all these opportunities, what are you focusing on getting to?
First of all, I feel like his lordship, Mr. DeVore, is ducking me since he's not here, by the way. He knew I was going to be on here calling himself his lordship, but it's all right. We'll see him down the road at some point.
Yeah.
But you know what? This is going to sound, I don't know if it's going to sound like a cop-out answer.
No, go ahead.
But I'm worried about what's happening today. And if I do what I need to do today, tomorrow will take care of itself. I told you that reverend stuff's real, baby. It ain't. It's not. If I take care of what I need to do today, tomorrow will take care of itself. I had no intention on being at OVW, and now I'm sitting here talking to you because you saw me on OVW. I'm getting all kinds. Honestly, I'm getting all kinds of inboxes because I'm at OVW, and so I don't worry about it. It's whatever happens to come next, it comes next. To be completely honest, I would love, like I said, I have a vision of putting OVW on my back and taking us to the next level. They give me a platform every week to go out there and show what I can do and show what some of the other guys can do once they step in there with me. So I feel like that if I keep doing what I need to do and keep stepping my game up, because believe me, I'm just scratching the tip of the iceberg right there. Yeah, they're only getting a piece of it. I still got, hey, just wait. Stay tuned. I guarantee you that. And I would love to put OVW on my back and bring it up to the next level. Because I heard, who was it? Someone did a podcast talking to one of the new owners, Matt Jones. If you all know Matt Jones, he's a big sports personality here in Kentucky and has a show on ESPN radio. He's one of the new owners, and I can't remember who he was talking to. And they were saying they kind of made a tier list of all the wrestling promotions, and they had like WWE as the first tier, then like AEW next tier, and then they had like Impact and Ring of Honor, and they said in the tier below that they kind of had OVW. I feel like, and that's probably kind of accurate, I would like to move OVW up to that next tier. Let's get to that Impact Wrestling Ring of Honor type level. And then once we get there, let's get to that AEW type level. Because, we have TV, we have national stations, there are stations overseas. There's no reason why we can't take it to the next level. So I don't have a, now, with that said, if AEW came calling or somebody came calling and all the, the paperwork looking good, why wouldn't I sign if it was time for that? But currently right now, I'm on a mission to try to blow OVW up. And I think as long as I do what I need to do, everything else will fall into place exactly where it needs to be.
Right. And that's a refreshing thing because I know, but when I was doing this, everybody always said they had that goal to reach this level, that level, this level. But some of them failed to think that, instead of me focusing on what's going to happen next, I need to worry about what's going on now. Because if I don't do it right now, the best that I can, and put this company over and the match over, down the road, people are going to notice, oh, you don't really care about the company. You just care, you're in business for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And for, and obviously we are in business for ourselves partially, but we have to understand where we fit in the scheme of the entire business.
Right.
And I think I overall, like I said, I know who I am. I know who I am as a man. I know who I am as a wrestler. I know who I am as a father, all of that stuff. So when you know who you are, it just makes it easier for you to do everything that you need to do. A lot of young wrestlers just don't know who they are yet. That's the bottom line. And that's why they struggle in some areas because they just don't know. Once you figure out who you are, life in general becomes easier, but especially life in the wrestling world.
Right. So with that being said, as far as putting everything over, putting yourself over, doing good business, who currently there in the locker room of the active participants, who do you think is are real good as far as breakout stars or people we need to be really focusing on and say, you got to take a look at this guy or gal?
Or gal. Well, for instance, you put it that way. One of my own kids is Hollywood Haley J. I don't know if you got a piece of her or not in OVW. And if not, you can look her up on some of the IWTV, IWA, and stuff like that. Obviously, you get kind of two different versions. IWA is a little more rated
adult,
PG-13.
yeah.
Whereas OVW is a little more PG. I'll just say rated R actually for IWA. And but she's doing her thing. She's a year in, almost a year, just a couple years ago, just a year, and the kid's on fire. She can cut a promo with the best of them. She knows who she is as a wrestler, and like I said, it makes all the difference. And she's only going to improve and get better from there. Number one contender for the women's title. Maybe she'll be wearing that title soon. As far as the guys in the locker room, the champ right now, the national champion, Jesse Goddard is the man. I enjoy Jesse Goddard. He obviously of Big Brother fame. I assume you all know who he was. He's had his TNA run. Well known. Everybody knows who he is, but he's just when you meet a guy like that, sometimes you expect him to be a bit of a prick, for lack of other words, but I like him. He dresses nice. I tend to dress nice, and so maybe that was our common thing. You got the Legion of Brutality. Those guys have an aura about them when they walk out, and the people feel them. And that's important. Another important, element in wrestling. When they got Isaiah, the Hood Ninja Isaiah, he's been around for a long time. Cash Flow's been around for a long time. And then you got the Chicago Bears, Steve Michaels, and Big Zoe, who I don't think has been around quite as long, but I think Zoe's at least been around about 5-6 years now. And then their manager, the East End villain, Josh Ashcraft, who was like almost. When I was in OVW for the first time, he was just starting, and to see him grow, it's awesome. But those guys just have a presence, and trust me, I've been in the ring with them, and you feel their presence as well. And they might be the most believable guys there. And yeah, they should be watched out for. There's a bunch of young guys there. I feel like I'm going to leave people out if I start naming names. But I really like Dustin Jackson, young wrestler who, once he figures out exactly who he is, you're going to see him go, whew. You got, who's the Rush Division champion right now? Lutz. A guy named Lutz. He's starting to figure out who he is, and I'm really enjoying listening to him cut some promos and do his thing in the wrestling ring. Jocelyn Navarro on the women's side, I really enjoy watching her. She's aggressive. She has it. I haven't heard her talk much, but I enjoy watching her work. And then, I don't know, there's a bunch of other guys there. I would just suggest, for no other reason, if you want to watch OVW, come watch me. because I guarantee you, I'm gonna give you something to watch and talk about. That's for sure. Oh, and Dimes. It just reminded me, my guest last week on TV, Dimes. He's a super heavyweight guy. Of course, he's about 5'8", like maybe 160, but he swears up and down he's 6'6", 300 pounds, and he makes me believe him. He makes me believe him. But there's so many young guys and girls there. Obviously, you got the Al Snow Wrestling Academy, who are also feeding OVW, but OVW is starting to build a little bit of name now with the new ownership, and there's some big ideas. There's some big ideas that are happening, and COVID has kind of got everything kind of on the back burner, or at least a slow simmer instead of boiling hot. But OVW is coming, and there's a bunch of guys coming in now from all over the place, some veterans here to kind of lead these young guys, and I think that combination is going to equal success for OVW here coming up in 2021 and beyond.
That's exciting news for OVW indeed, and for the world of professional wrestling. Now, Sam, what's the because you look like you were going to say something, and then
so as soon as he says Hollywood Haley J, I go to YouTube immediately and I say, all right, let me check this out. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching a tables match between Haley J and Alice Crowley.
Yeah.
And you can see, Alice looks like she's got a solid grasp as to who she wants to be, but Haley J has got confidence behind what she's doing. She's still young enough to the point where she can change and do whatever she wants to do, but you can see the confidence and how she carries herself and delivers these moves, she is really kind of a testament to what it means to pay attention, because you can tell she is.
Yeah. Well, that's, not that I guess I will toot my own horn considering it's my job these days. That's what I teach. That's my, anybody can teach somebody to go in there and take an arm drag, you can put a headlock on, headlock take over. That's what anybody can do that. You have to take it beyond that. You have to understand who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't understand the why, man, I feel like Al Snow. Wow. If you don't understand the why, then how is anybody else going to understand it and really pick it up? And it's a feel. It's a feeling that you must get from the people. You must emote, and the people must feel who you are. And when they feel you and they feel that you are real, they don't even know they're feeling it, but they react to it. And that's what I teach. That's my thing. I think that's what sets me apart from a lot of wrestling trainers. A lot of wrestling trainers, they're just going to teach you. They're going to teach you how to do your moves. And I tell my guys, I can care less about what moves you do. Could care less. Because I tell you, a guy like me, I will go talk, and when I get in the ring, the people already feel a way about me, so they're going to react to whatever move I do. It doesn't really matter. It makes not a difference. And Haley J, once that clicked, once that light bulb went off, oh man. And that was in that match you were watching. That might have been her 8th match or something like that. It wasn't far. Matter of fact, 8 might be too far. It might have been like 7 or something. It was, or 6 or 7. It wasn't. She hadn't to that point. So once it clicks, these young wrestlers, that's my favorite part of training, by the way, to see that light bulb. And it usually happens like in a match. I'll be watching them and I see the light bulb go off and I'm like, there it is. All right. It just makes me proud. I love it. And I'm proud of her. She's going to do big things.
Well, you could see a moment in that matchup where Crowley just does a suicide dive to the outside. There's no space from the time she jumps through the middle rope to getting towards Haley J. And Haley makes a bold step forward that you don't see a lot of young people willing to do. But she takes a step forward to help. Yeah. To keep her from really, doing some serious damage. But then the presence of mind, and this is my observation of it, the presence of mind to slow her down and say, all right, here we are, we're here, we're going here. And you can see her start to direct traffic. And I got to say, I have never seen that in someone that new, which is really doggone impressive.
Well, yeah. Like I said, some get it quicker than other people, but that's my whole. That statement right there you just made is almost what I base my whole teaching style around. Mm-hmm. That's where I teach ring generals. I don't want to teach anybody. Anybody can go in there and just listen to whoever, but you need to know who you're in the ring with, what you're doing, where you are, what's going on, and all of that. I won't get into all of that, but. Yeah, that right there, that's pretty much a really good statement on what I like to teach and how I like to teach it. Mm-hmm. Because that's important. That's the important stuff. That's the stuff, like I said, you saw it right then and there. And like I said, that might have been match 7 for her. Mm-hmm. You should see her now. But yeah, I'm so proud of all my guys and girls, but I'm definitely proud of her.
So a lot of times right now we're hearing a lot of people talk about recent comments made by The Undertaker. Talk about today's talent is soft. Mm-hmm. And, his specific commentary was towards the WWE. Right. What I've noticed on social media is every veteran and their cousin basically diving in saying, oh, yeah, today's industry is soft. We all had it so much tougher. And maybe you did. You know what I mean? I'm the kind of person that says, but is it really softer? Or is somebody finally paying attention to, no, it's not about are you drinking beer with the guys before and after a show. It's about are you paying attention enough to what happens when you're in the ring. Because frankly, what I've seen versus 20 years ago to now, there's an attention level that is higher right now. And I think the ability to relax and for someone to look you in the eye and say, listen, this is good, this isn't so good. Let's fix this and go forward versus, I don't know I don't know what the stance is here on profanity, but that was the drizzling shits. That doesn't help anyone. It's funny in the moment, but it doesn't help anybody. You have to be able to look someone in the eye and say, hey, look, this maybe not, but this right here was great. And so I think to what he meant was maybe he's right. Maybe there's a softer touch, but I also honestly think that helps the business.
Well, that's a yes and no. Here's my stance on it. I understand what the Undertaker's saying, and I agree to an extent. Now, I've been around long enough to where sometimes there were physical consequences to if you didn't do things right. But it was under the banner of protecting the business, which I get. I understand it. Because what's different now than it was back then? Back then, there was kayfabe and everything, so that was guys living, so they couldn't have the wink link coming in there making everybody look bad, because when you do that, you're making everybody look bad. So now, why is that customer going to come pay this ticket? So when you take it that far back to the territory days, I get it. I understand. It's kind of brutal. But I understand completely, because these guys were like magicians, and you can't let the people know how the magic tricks are done, and you can't have anybody in there who wasn't strong enough or good enough to do that. So you kind of had to weed them out. So I get that. Nowadays, obviously, it's not the same. However, I think we've gone too far to the extreme. Nowadays, quite frankly, I'll say it, there are some people in the wrestling ring who do not belong in the wrestling ring.
Yes.
But however, there's not that policing of ourselves anymore, because it's no longer quite PC to weed the ones that shouldn't be in there out. Now, with that said, I do not believe, like I said, I'm a teacher and trainer of professional wrestling. I don't beat my kids. I don't even stretch my kids. I threaten them with it every now and then, but I've not actually gone in there and stretched anybody. But so I don't believe that violence is necessarily the answer. We shouldn't be beating the crap out of kids. We shouldn't. There's some stories out there that I've heard that are just not right. I don't care what line of walk or what profession you're in. There are other ways to do things, than beating a kid half to death or whatever. Because what are they going to learn from that? Now at the same time, my opinion probably is a good stretcher and probably would do some of these kids some good every now and then, because just like when I was a kid and messed up and got that butt whooped, I understood that.
Right.
Now me personally, I had to relax my style when I first started training under Larry D, where Larry D has his academy and I was his head coach, and I was aggressive. You did things a certain way. If you didn't, I would make sure I would smoke you, mainly more military style, than laying hands on you. But there was some, there might have been a few stiff shots in there. I'll admit that, just because to wake you up a little bit. Now, they were definitely stiff and snooksky, but I wasn't out to hurt you. I was just out to, just like, that's not much. I don't think that's changed in the business. If you're in a ring with someone and you need to get their attention, you give them a little violent forearm, kind of wakes them up. We're not out to injure anybody, but I got your attention, kind of thing. So the business is probably a little softer from that standpoint, where I think he mentioned something like when men were men and something like that. There's a piece of me that resonates with that. There is a piece of me that resonates with him, but I also understand, and like I said, my gift is that I can speak anyone's language. I can take this kid and teach him in a way that perhaps he can understand it when most people wouldn't be able to communicate with this kid. So I don't need to do that. I don't need to beat the crap out of somebody, because quite frankly, a lot of the people who we would do that to these days, they wouldn't get the message anyway. They wouldn't get the message. They would go on social media and whine about it. And yeah. I don't know if I've said this or not. I despise social media. It has been a detriment to my career because I despise it so much. I have a really hard time going. I've been trying to do it here lately. I've been trying to post a little something on there, but I despise social media because it's a work, and I get enough of that. They work. And I don't, everybody wants to be these tough guys on social media. They want to say this, they want to say that, or I go on there and I see, as Diego was mentioning earlier, somebody's pumping some guy up who had a mediocre match or something like that, or the two guys who had a mediocre match with each other are on there pumping each other up, and I'm just like, what is this? What am I looking at here? It bothers me to no end. I despise it with a passion. So I try not to get on there, and I've been trying here lately just get a little bit, because I understand it's an important thing these days. Social media is important. If you want to quote unquote get over with the people, you got to be on social media. You got to be, oh, man, I feel like I got enough personality. Come and see me or catch me on YouTube or something. I can't do the social media game. God, I struggle so bad with it.
Oh, no, I get it. I'm on it all the time, especially a lot for show prep and looking for people to interview and try to find friends to get on the show. So before we go, social media is a very important thing, especially for talent performers, not just wrestlers, for musicians, artists, and stuff like that. So had it not been for some form of social media, you and I probably won't be having this conversation. So how can we, as fans or other podcasters out there, other companies, how can they find out more about you, not just watching you on television with OVW, but, your social medias? What do you have going on? You have your Twitter, you have your Facebook.
I do. I'm trying to think. Facebook, Triple R Superstar, or Ronnie Roberts. You can find me on Twitter. I believe it's 3R_Superstar. I think I got that right.
That seems right.
Yeah. And then Instagram, Ronnie_Roberts1. That's about it. I know there's probably more platforms that I don't TikTok, that I don't do a whole lot of Snapchatting and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I bet you would be great on TikTok.
No.
I can't. I enjoy. I'm old school. I don't even watch TV that much, man. I watch sports. That's about it. I understand that TV is just television is called television programming for a reason, and I would prefer to program myself than to have someone else program me.
Man, that's 100% truth right there.
Yeah. Other than that, check me out on YouTube. I'm on OVW TV every Tuesday. It hits on different channels. There's a show on Saturday. There's a show on Tuesday. I think it shows on Thursday. It's on Amazon Prime. It's all over. Just Google.
It's worldwide now.
Google OVW Wrestling, and you will find somewhere to watch it, and you will see the Triple R Superstar, Reverend Ronnie Roberts, America's Reverend, the chosen one, the blessed one, the man whose hand is guided by the big man's hand upstairs, and he will bless you. Amen.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of social media, Stan, Corner to Corner, New Attitude Media. Let's tell the folks about it one more time.
Catch up with Corner to Corner tomorrow night. That's Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on C2CRadioshow.com. Newtude Media on the Twitter, but it's newattitudemedia.com for the network site there. And, of course, you can catch up with myself at Stan Grubb pretty much everywhere. Although I will say this, I happen to agree, social media can be both a blessing and indeed a curse.
Indeed. Yeah. Very true. And on my side, the DiegoandDeVoreShow.com, the DiegoandDeVoreShow.com, also UCWForever.com, Ultimate Championship Wrestling. Hopefully after this all is gone, coming back stronger than ever. While you're there, please click on the banner, Amazon, do your normal shopping. Go to the UCWForever.com or the DiegoandDeVoreShow.com. Click on that banner for Amazon. Do your normal shopping. Help the show out because, equipment just falls apart. We kind of need a little bit of help. We're not begging for help, but we darn well need it. And then also while you're out there, if you want to buy because, Valentine's Day is coming again. I call that Christmas #2 for the ladies and the gentlemen's out there. Buy themselves something. Buy themselves not just a piece of jewelry. If you like watches, go to the UCWForever.com, the DiegoandDeVoreShow.com. Click on the Invicta banner. Go in there and buy your loved one a beautiful watch, a watch that stands the test of time, a timepiece. It makes a statement, just like the Diego and DeVore show does. So with that, Reverend, a pleasure having you on. And now that I'm proud to call you my friend now, I feel like I know all your history. Eventually, I'll tell you my history. You might not want to be my friend anymore. And then, Stan, I appreciate you being on the show and filling those big millionaire shoes, his lordship's shoes. And it's not easy, brother. I know it.
I wish I could vacation as much as he does, man. I'm jealous.
Yeah,
hey, man.
Listen, I told you, he's going to hear this. He needs to stop dodging me. He should have been in here for this interview, and he wants to take a vacation when I'm going to be, I'm getting kind of hot about it. Let me settle down.
Oh boy.
You can find him on social media as well. Just follow. We'll talk about it another time. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure as always. And you guys take care of yourselves out there and try to social distance yourself as best as possible. No matter how you feel about this whole thing, it's affecting us all equally. So with that being said, it's another fantastic episode of the Diego and DeVore Show with Stan from Corner to Corner, New Attitude Media, and the Reverend Ronnie Roberts. Catch him worldwide on Amazon and on YouTube. OVW, The Future of Wrestling is Now. From all of us to you, thank you for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.